Hey everyone, welcome back to Master Your Life Beyond the Founder. I am your podcast host, Luke Beastall, and I have a fellow UK guest join us in the studio today. His name's Wesley Cunliffe, and he is a youth mentor and advocate for men's work, but kids as well. He's actually working specifically in the sector of domestic violence, which he's had an experience himself, which I know we're going to dive deeper into today. He's an semi-professional rugby player. He's also been slightly, we were just talking before, and we can actually say he's been in a little bit of pro Welsh rugby, but we'll sort of unravel that. But what I love about it is that his dream, whilst on this podcast as well, and moving forwards in his life, is to have a foundation, a charity where he can create accessibility to the local area to help them feel that they're safe, heard, understood, and actually ultimately help them change their lives for the better, which I think, if we be honest here, guys, I think that's an amazing cause, and he's got this aspiration, which I'm sure we'll go into today. But look, Wes, it's an absolute pleasure, mate, to have you join us today.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. Big fan.
Big fan. I love that. So just talking about big fan then, because I'm curious now. You've got me thinking. How come you're a big fan? What sort of drawing you to it?
It's the story that you put out there to people, really. How through fitness, through sport, how that can help the transition, and I don't think that really gets spoken about enough, really, in terms of like what that does for people in the community. And I was drawn to yourself and a fan, and after doing some research on you, looking into your work, and I like the fact that you obviously set this up yourself. You created this yourself, and
yes.
you know what it takes. You know what hard work goes into this. So, so from that alone, like, you set all this up yourself. For me, it's big kudos from me on that.
Well, I honestly thank you for that. I really, really appreciate it. And the fact that you've done a little bit of homework as well always makes us feel good about what, because you can create whatever you want to create. And I think, like I say, what's drawn me to this conversation today is your background as well. And what word was screaming at me then when you was talking about the transition is identity loss. You sort of lose, like, who am I now? When I've sort of come out of the sport. So for you being in rugby specifically, when that sort of came to an end, what happened for you then? Did you feel that sense of loss identity wise, or did you transition quite easily? What was your journey like?
In terms of stopping, I haven't stopped completely. I stopped playing at that level, obviously.
Yes. Okay.
But I haven't stopped completely. I don't think I'll ever walk away from the game of rugby ever again now, whether that's playing, get involved in coaching, even if that with adults or youngsters. I just don't think I'll walk away from rugby ever again now because of what the sport has done for me personally. But at the pro level, it kind of stopped an abrupt end for me, really, because my granddad's dad, Owen, he was one of my biggest supporters in rugby, and we were very close anyway. Biologically, we are grandson and grandfather, but our relationship, we were father and son, if not brothers, more than anything. We were very close. He was that one that really pushed me to do better, to get better, to stay away from the life I was leading before. But he was fighting cancer for a long, long time. He died back in 2018, and obviously he died at 83. But the cancer obviously started to take hold of his body. But I had to drop out of semi-pro sport. We couldn't afford, obviously, the full-time carers that he would have needed. So I took the step back to care for him. So basically, I moved in with him and took care of him there up until the very, very end. Then he went into St. David's Hospice, which is a fantastic cause, by the way. They're fantastic people. But up until that point, I kind of stepped back from the top flight. I thought taking care of my dad, I thought is a bigger calling at this point than
100%.
rugby. He took care of me for, at the time, for 33 years. So I can at least give him 6 months of his life back from me, really. So that was me, really. It was hard to step back from rugby because he knew that's the sport I love doing, but he is more important. At that point, I had to do it. I couldn't just carry on playing top sport rugby knowing that he's, going through that on his own, and I didn't want him doing that on his own. I was with him every step of the way to the very end, and I kind of fell in love with sport then, when he passed away. Really, I kind of fell in love with the game. Until then, I had the idea of setting up my charity, which is going to be quite rugby orientated. But I do remember the conversations we had, and how my journey into rugby is quite unorthodox to other people, shall we say, especially in Wales. Anyway, my journey to that level of rugby was very unorthodox. It's not. It's very rare you hear these kind of stories, but and he reminded me of that. So yeah, I'll always be involved in rugby, one way, shape, or form. There's no doubt about that.
I think I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's a beautiful thing that you sort of shared that about. You obviously your granddad's. You've got strong memories. Sorry for your loss on that, obviously as well. Cancer's just such a cruel thing. Any family members going through it, anybody going through it is not a nice thing. I think you definitely made the right decision, by the way. I don't for one second think that there's any regrets there, for sure. And I'm sure he's still proud of you now, looking down and seeing you still doing rugby and going after your dreams, right?
Oh, my great auntie Anne, beautiful Auntie Anne. She's still around. My granddad's sister. And she always reminds me if I post stuff on my social media, like some awards I've won and things I've been invited to, and she always reminds me like, Owen, be so proud of you. Her brother, her big brother, and yeah. So she does remind me on socials, that he's definitely proud of me. And even though I knew him quite well, I think if anyone knows him the best, it's most probably her. Do you know what I mean? It's her brother, and she grew up with him, so she most probably knows him better than all of us, So, yeah,
Yeah.
she always reminds me that he'd be very proud of me. That keeps me going. And I hope I have done him proud, because I know he put a lot of hard work into me. So I hope I am doing him proud, hopefully.
I don't think there's any hope in. I think it's a guaranteed thing there, definitely, with what you're doing now. I mean, I'm just curious, and you don't have to share if you don't want. Wes, where was your dad in this, sort of your actual dad? Because obviously you were saying he was like your granddad, your dad, your brother, sort of thing. I was just wondering, biologically, where was he in this situation?
Yeah, my biological father, he passed away when I was very young. I was about 7
Oh,
or 8. I didn't have much relationship with my biological father.
okay,
But obviously, I know he's from Caribbean heritage, Saint Lucia and
okay.
Jamaica. But yeah, I didn't have much relationship with him. But he died of a brain tumor at the age of
Oh,
32, I think.
wow.
I was about 7 or 8 when this happened. I was way too young.
Yes.
But we didn't have much of a relationship anyway. To be honest, I met him once or twice towards the end of his life, and I met him. But yeah, that's the most that I had with him, really. But it sounds really awful to say, but Owen, he's my dad. Do you mean he was my granddad, and
Yeah. Hey.
that's
Yeah.
never going to
Definitely.
change. He was my dad.
He was there.
Yeah, well, he's the one who took me to meet him.
Yeah.
And he was very close to me, Owen. Like, he didn't leave me too far. Even when he took me to see him, like he stayed in the house. Like they said, we leave. He was like, no. you know. So yeah, that's how it was. But yeah, I can't complain about it. It's a shame he passed away, because obviously it'd be nice to get to know him a lot more. Like, where my heritage, where my line comes from. But you know, these are things that we've got to learn and deal with along the way. And I was just lucky that I had Owen to step in as my dad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great that he did that for you, and you was able to. Again, sorry for that. I mean, again, the loss of that at such a young age as well. I mean, even at that moment in time, whether it was something that you like I say, you can truly remember, it's still going to have an impact on you as a young boy. Sort of growing up. So, I mean, look, you've spoken. There's so many key points that we can go into here. You'd sort of said about unorthodox sort of journey. Your rugby journey, your life, your sort of way
Yeah.
of coming into this. Could you share a bit more about that? Because I think this would be quite valuable to our audience.
Yeah, I was involved in crime as a kid. I was involved in drug dealing. I was involved in that since I was 12.
Oh,
Um,
right. Okay.
and obviously growing up in Newport, nothing wrong with Newport at all, but a very working class town. Majority of the estates are, poverty, a lot of crime going on. But the people are good. Take that as you want to take that. But people are good there.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, the people in Newport are good. But it was just a place where we grew up, and that's how life was. So we needed money. We were poor. We weren't rich. So I looked into that life, got involved in that life, got in a lot of trouble. got attacked, stabbed, and I was looking down the rabbit hole. I was looking down a wormhole for a long time, as in, prison sentence or a wooden box. And a couple of police officers, actually, believe it or not, it was local officers in the community that helped me out with that. And I was going to court, to a youth court, and when you go to the youth court, it's different to adults. You have a panel of like 4 judges. It's like going to Dragon's Den. That's what it's like.
Oh, right.
And it's just as scary as an adult court with a jury, because for you to walk away, not get sent down, you need all 4 judges to be in agreement. It's just one judge thinks you deserve to go, you're going. It has to be a majority of 4. And I was looking, I thought, I'm done here, I'm done. And I got put in front of the judge. This is at 17. She said to me that the police officers that are dealing with me said that I had a kind of like unique athletic ability. Because at this point, look, I didn't like sports, to be honest with you. I didn't like sports, wasn't into fitness, nothing, way, shape or form. Completely detested those kind of things. But the one time I got I got stopped and searched, and the dog sat down at my left ankle, and because there was pills in my left ankle, and he looked at me, he went, "Don't you think about running?" And I thought, you know what? I can outrun that dog for like 30 meters, and leap that fence. There was a plan in my head. I was like, yeah, I could do that. So I did it, and the dog chased me, and I outran the dog for like 25, 30 meters and jumped over the fence. And the police officer like, "Did you know Wes could move like that?" And and I actually responded when I got caught later on. I said I didn't know I could move like that. And then when the judge spoke to me about that particular part, I actually responded to her. I said, if an Alsatian was chasing you, you would run like Usain Bolt as well. Do you know what I mean? And she was like, that's a very valid point. Very valid point. But she said, you've got a unique athletic ability. I was like, I don't think so. And they put me on a YRO, which is a youth rehabilitation order. So basically, it's a license for teenagers, basically, at the time. And part of that was taking part in it's a charity called the School of Hard Knocks. It's a rugby charity. And they use rugby as a tool to make things better in your life.
Okay.
Not just for people like me, like in crime. There's people there on the program with me who are homeless, who wants to go, into a home and go into a everyday normal life, shall we say. And there was people there that was, at one time in addiction, whether that's alcohol or drugs, and they've been sober now, clean for a couple of years, and they want to go back into employment and just go back into everyday life. But they use rugby as a tool to do that, and they taught us like CV writing, cover letters, interviews. Even got us like at the end of the course, you got live interviews with live employers. So it really helped me, and that was my first introduction to rugby. Really, was through that, and I enjoyed it. I liked that part of it, that physicality of the sport. But it taught me a number of things as well, which I'm sure we can go into later on. And then once I'd done that, I got involved then with my local club, St. Joseph's RFC, in my local estate of Dufferin. And there was a lovely man there. His name was Mike Dawkins. He, sadly passed away, but he was more or less my first coach in terms of rugby, my very first coach. And he had a lot of belief in me, and he was very, very good to me in terms of he didn't care about the background I was from. I think he was aware of my background. He was aware of my history, but I don't think he was really bothered by that. He was like, I can see something here in you, and I think you got something to offer, and yeah, I'll take a chance on you. So he did, and he really helped me out and got me involved in youth rugby, basically. He got me involved in that. And then I went on to play for Newport Youth, then, which is for the city, team, which was the big one. Played there, and also I went into seniors, and that was a bit of a up and down, playing for different, local clubs. But it all changed really when I went to Evervale, because obviously they play at a higher standard than the clubs I'm used to. And I was playing for Jadiga, and we were playing a night game, floodlight game, and I didn't know this happened. I got in the car. My granddad sat me down in the car, and he went, look, he said, give me a piece of paper, and he said, here's a number here. He said his name's Jason Strange. He wants you to give him a call. He's the head coach with Neil Edwards of Evervale. I was like, what? He was like, yeah. He said he want to talk to you tomorrow. And obviously I'm just coming from, out of this world. So he was like, "You are going to call him tomorrow, aren't you?" Right? I was like, "Yes, Dad, I'll call him tomorrow straight away."
Yeah.
And so I called them, and they invited me over for pre-season. And then after pre-season, they sat me down and went, "Hey, do you want to continue staying here?" I was like,
Wow.
"Yeah." That's my journey into semi-pro. No academy, no strength and conditioning coach, no nutrition specialist. Just got saw that night. And they were like, "We like this lad. We want to bring him over." That is it. There's nothing special in terms of what I've done. It's just the fact of I just didn't come through the normal orthodox route, academy into top
Yeah,
level,
I know.
playing
Yeah.
for Division 4 club, and they come through the gates that night. End up playing for Vale for 5 or 6 years. Winning some awards, over a couple of seasons, and getting to know the people of that club as well, which was also amazing, which led me into playing for my home city of Newport then, at Rodney Parade, into the semi-pro level. So yeah, that's my journey into that level of rugby. I didn't come for the academy, didn't come for anything like that at all. Just got seen on a Friday night game and got given a piece of paper, and that was it.
Back then, it wouldn't be like that now, but back then, that's amazing. The right place at right time. And I think
Basically.
as well, for you, obviously, there was a talent there, right? You'd got this talent. You could sprint, you could run, you were fast. Obviously, you were powerful. Somebody saw something in you. Obviously, those police officers saw something in you, right? Even back then, when you was obviously in that sort of arena. The one thing I want to ask, and we'll sort of like move back onto this sort of stuff, is I'd love to know, there was sort of, what drawn you into that world of drugs? What was your behavior like back then to sort of go along with that, especially with sort of the role model of your granddad? I'm just curious, like what drawn you into that world?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Obviously, I lived with my grandparents, obviously, later on in life after, the trouble and stuff like that. And I was living with my mum on the estate. But like I said, it's more poverty and the glamour that gets, portrayed towards you. And when I went and knocked on some doors because we needed money, and I went and knocked on some doors, and um, and he's flashing £50 notes in my face. I don't care who you are, when you're 12 years old, 13 years old, and somebody is waving three £50 notes in your face, you just blinkered. You don't see the danger, you don't see the risks. You just see those notes. You're like, "Oh yeah, I'll have that. Thank you very much." And that's what it's like with me. And my behaviour, for me, really, I wasn't a kid who wanted to be a gangster. Nothing like that at all. And I'm fully open to saying I wasn't that kind of guy. I literally got involved in that world just to get by. And listen,
For money,
that's not an excuse, mind. I knew what I did was wrong, but um, the quick access, the quick gratification, like I needed money, I needed now.
Sure.
I had to go knock on the door at 10 o'clock at night, and then by 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm out shotting. That's how quick it was, and I like the money and the glitz and the glamour that come with it, all the money, you see people buying the clothes, the trainers, people having what I didn't have, and I wanted that. And for my little brothers as well, I live with my two little brothers, and I had to look out for them too, bath them, take them to school, feed them, and do all that. And yeah, and that's what put me into it. Like I said, it wasn't, do you want to be a gangster? Far from it. Just I got it. I went to that world to make some money and didn't realize the risks that come with it, which is the violence and, the fear looking over your shoulder, where that's going to get stabbed, get jumped by another gang, police banging down your door. Like, trust me, that going through your head at the age of 13, 14 is no way for any kid to live.
No, and I appreciate the openness as well, though, Wes, in that. I think it's good to reflect on it and bring it up, because I'm sure, there's a lot of people who will listen to this, and have kids or have known experiences where what the reason behind it is. Yours was purely, like you say, to provide, right? You become the big brother, even in a way like a slight father figure to them, and it was purely that. But obviously, like you say, you didn't know what consequences would have happened through your actions at such a young age, because when you're such a young age, you're like sort of free, you're just doing your thing, and like you say, you're seeing the glamour world of the trainers, the designer wear, and you're just like, yeah, I'm loving this, I'm getting a bit of this. So when was that moment for you then, when you thought, right, this glamour, this sort of £50 shiny notes in my face, it's tiring now, I'm done with this?
Yeah, and it's a very good point, because not many people ask me that, and I think it's a very important part. When I tell my story going into schools or public spaces, tennis story, I call it when the light bulb starts flickering. This when the light bulb started flickering not too long before the attack, and I was selling brown and in Newport, and a guy come up bought some off me, like 100 quid, something like that. And about 20 minutes later, half hour later, a young girl comes around the corner pushing, the twin prams, the two buggies, and she cut me, and she went, "Do you remember me?" And I looked at her, and I went, "I remember you. I said you used to buy from me. I said, I've seen you for a while." And she said that she's got clean,
Okay.
and she had two little wee ones with her, two little girls, and no older than 18 months. And she said obviously the bloke who bought the brown off me not long before is the father of those children, and she wanted to go clean. He didn't. She wanted to go clean to get her children back, which he's clearly done. And she said he's taken my last bit of savings that I had out of the house to buy these drugs off you. And I know a lot of people will go, who cares about that? But when those two little wee ones were in front of me, and she said, I literally got nothing until next week. That £100 you got is all I've got. So I told the guy to give me the drugs back, and he gave me the drugs back, and I give him a little slap around the head. It's like, why would you steal off your kids, you little wrong'un? And
yeah,
and even the boys I was rolling with, I said, listen, don't you serve this wrong'un again. And even though they didn't, he'll go elsewhere and get it. Do you know what I mean? It's not that hard.
Yeah, of course.
That was the flickering moment for me. And I was like, actually, if I didn't give that woman that money back that was stolen from her, what would have happened to those little wee ones for the next 7 days? Like what would have happened? And I thought, hang on, I'm contributing to the poison here. I'm contributing to that poison. And I thought, what am I doing? That was a light bulb thing, and I shouldn't be doing this. When I saw that lady with the two wee ones, that hit me. That did. I was like, wow, I took £100 off somebody who stole that off somebody's kids. And that didn't sit with me. So I give her the money back, and she hugged me saying thank you. And we still speak now and again to this day, and she's doing great, she's working now, and, kids are older and stuff like that. But at the time I thought, what am I doing? Like, I'm contributing to this madness, to this, to this chaos. And you see those two little girls in that pram, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm a father now. Do you know what I mean? And I see it. I'm like, what am I doing? And that's when the light bulbs started flickering. I was like, nah, you're contributing to the poison of the community here.
Right. So that good analogy as well. The sort of light bulb flickering. I like that. So you said you was a father. So how old was your was it daughter or son at the time that you was dealing? Or
Yeah. I had my daughter later on in life. In my 20s, she's now 14. But it's just when I look at her now, and I look at my son,
Oh,
when
okay.
when both babies, I kind of it took me back to that moment, like when when she had those two little ones. I thought, wow, like, yeah, I can understand now, why she was the way that she was, because I'm the same. I would, you know, duck dive, do what I can to get by to feed your children, and clearly she's doing the same thing. But she shouldn't have to be coming to me saying that the father, who's still on the drugs, stole off her and her children to feed his habit. But people will look at that, but that's the reality of that world. That's what that world is like. People who are on drugs, they'll do anything that they can to get their fix, and they'll take it off whoever. There's no care in the world, and I'm not judging them either, but that's the world that you're in. And like I said, the light bulb started flickering in my mind, and I was like, I'm contributing to the poison in the community. And and he stole money off his two daughters just to feed his habit. And I thought, that was the bit I was like, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, and that's obviously something that's been taken. Well, you're carrying it now. You sort of remember that pivotal experience that sort of shaped you and made you sort of change the way things are going. But obviously, you said as well, just at the beginning, that was before the attack. So when you say attack, you was at knife point, right? Was that?
Yeah. I picked up a package, like, in a backpack on the train on the way back home from the Birmingham area, and 3 boys followed me. They got ballied up, they got masked up. I was like, yeah, they're 100% coming for me. When I got off the train at Newport, it all went off. No professional fighting. I was just wingmanning,
Yeah.
wherever I could hit. And when the police turned up, I was breathing heavy, and I didn't realize at first because the adrenaline was kicking in, and then I felt like I felt drunk basically, and the
Yeah.
police officer caught me midair. I don't remember anything after that. I just woke up in the hospital a few days later, and the police officer said my eyes just rolled back of my head, and I was just going backwards, and they caught me and they gave me first aid at the scene, and saved my life, took me to A&E. Where I could recover. And then obviously when that happened, then obviously I was arrested then for what they call PWITs, possession, intent to supply, class A. And that's when I got put in front of the judge, the judges. And that's when I was given the YRO. And that's when I decided to make those changes. I was like, and that's when it happened. The police officer sat me down on the local estate and nothing in it at all, but he just sat me down and he was just like, look, how far has this got to go before you end up in prison or in a box? And he said, he was just straight up with me. He's like, how far has this got to go, lad?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a light bulb for me then. I was like, yeah, he's got a valid point, got a very valid point. And yeah, and that's how I found rugby then. Got that program and completely got away. And I think that's a very important part of that transition. Like you mentioned, when I got into that world of rugby, that world got bigger and that world was shrinking and shrinking and shrinking to a point where it was no longer existent. And then that world kept growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, this is good. So rugby, when you sort of get under the spotlight and you step over that white line, how does it make you feel?
Oh, do you know what? My first time, in amateur wasn't too bad. But my first ever experience of, semi-pro professional rugby with Ebb Vale, oh, it was nerve-wracking. I've never ever been in that environment before. Never. And I was used to playing, when you play a game, you have 20 people. You're the saying, the man walking his dog on a Saturday afternoon, he drops in to have a watch of a game and things like that. And, and when I saw all that, my dad was like, "You're right." I was like, "No, I don't know. I don't know, Dad." It was my debut. It was at Vale at Eugene Cross Park, and there was a 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 at least there. Home supporters there, and I was like, "Wow!" And it was noisy. It was noisy, chanting
Nice.
Ebu, chanting Ebu, and I was on the wing, or if not the centre of the wing, and when I'm on that one particular side, they're chanting Ebu, and even when I got in the car, my ears were still ringing from the noise. Like it was unreal. When I crossed with that white line, I was so nervous because I'd never been in that environment before, never been in that, and I just didn't. I was just in my head. I was just like, don't mess this up today. Don't, sorry, but don't fuck this up. that was going through my head. Just don't f this up today. And I didn't. I had a good debut, scored a couple of tries, and it went on from there. But the very first time I crossed that whitewash, I'll never forget it. It was amazing because it was night lights, but it was packed. The ground was packed, and yeah, just never seen that before. Never seen that before ever. And I'm just lucky I've had the pleasure to experience that, those kind of things. And like I said, it's good to be on these kind of things because I don't think that part of rugby has been told enough on what the sport does to people.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, it's very hard because I guess we see the highlight, right? We just see the lights, we see the pro photos, we see the headshots, we see the sort of try, and we see the points on the leaderboard and the tables and stuff, and the attendance of fans. But what I guess people don't know or is how it made you feel, right? I mean, just sort of for the audience, because I think this is amazing how, anybody sort of coming into this episode, you was in crime, you had domestic violence, you could have died in that moment if it had got wrong, if it had got a bit messy. It didn't. You had somebody on the scene that picked you up. You had to face a panel, but they gave you a chance in life.
Yes.
And
Yes, you did.
it led you into a pathway of rugby, and then you're suddenly accelerating onto a semi-professional scene, and it's like a pinch me moment of going, this is insane. This is wow. Where's this come from? I've never experienced anything like this in my life. I've never been in this environment in my life. How in your mind when you talk this story, like what comes to your mind? Because I just find it's like it must be a little bit euphoric. It must be sort of, you must feel proud, that you managed to turn that around.
Proud in the word. the first one for me was disbelief. Like, why am I, how am I stood here? And I know it's not about, class or background, but it's like, how's this lad from the council estate, only not too long ago, was a blight on people's communities, to being now somebody who's well liked by a community. Like that complete 360 turnaround. 1 minute I was bad, next minute I'm good, kind of thing. And what really hit for me is I saw how proud Owen was when he saw me run out onto the ground. I always thought he had a hope that I would play full-time professional rugby, but he was very happy to see where I was, because of where I was before, where I started out, and now where I've ended up. I think he's very happy with that, with his grandson turning that corner. But how I felt, it was very hard. It's very hard to describe. I didn't know. Be honest with you, I didn't know how to deal with it at first. I generally don't know how to deal with all those emotions. Like I said, 1 minute I'm this person, then the next minute I'm that person in terms of life. Just like that. And the supporters made everything a lot better for me as well. They're nice people. The best way to describe Ebbw, right, is in the valleys. It's a rugby town. But the best way to describe it is, if Ebbw was a house, then the rugby club is definitely the kitchen, where everybody congregates, right? That's what it is. And what made me feel better about rugby, and that's why I said I don't think it's talked about enough in any level of rugby, whether that's professional or down to grassroots. I don't think it's talked about. And it really hit me. I go training, and I go into the clubhouse after training, and the people there, the great volunteers around the club. And I've got kids, under 8s, under 9s, under 10s, under 12s, at the time, saying like Wes is their favourite player. Like they looked up to Wes, they're looking up to me, I didn't know how to deal with that. Like, what, really? Like, yeah, like, the kids love you. The kids love you here. And there's a highlight. One of my games, I score a try, and it's right on the camera, and there's like 5 or 6 kids on the fence watch me score the try. When I score the try, they absolutely erupt. They leap over the fence, and they're going absolutely wild. And I couldn't believe it, and I didn't realize that that effect was happening on other people, in the community. So now I'm becoming this person who's a criminal, to being a role model to young people that I didn't even know I've been a role model to. I didn't even know that. And the one that really turned it for me, and this is what I really want to say this, because like I said, it's not really spoken about in rugby or sport in general. I spoke to a supporter. He, lovely guy, lovely fan. And if you ever watch this podcast, I think you'll know I'm talking about him, because I'm sure you remember the conversation. And I went into the clubhouse after one game, and we sat down, we had a beer together, and he opened up and he said, he has depression, things like that. I was like, oh wow. I was like, mate, you could talk to me whenever you want. And he said, Wes, he said, the reason I'm telling you that, he said, we paid money to come watch you guys play. I was like, yeah. He said, you know what? He said, you know when Ebbw wins? I went, yeah. He goes, work is so much better, but. That's what he said. He goes, work is so much better, but when Ebbw wins. I was like, really? He goes, Wes, when I see you running, scoring tries, I see the boys, smashing people to bits. And he said, we see where we are on the top of the league. He said, I don't feel down. He said, I can face next week. And I thought, is that what we're doing to people? It's like, is that what this is doing? And I learned that, and people went, how'd you know that? And I said, it's amazing what you learn when you talk to people.
Absolutely.
And he said that to me, and I was like, wow. Like, so us playing on Saturday, so it's not, like you said, it's not about the tries, it's not about the highlights. Rugby itself is far more reaching than I ever could imagine. And when I have these conversations with these young kids and these adults telling me that, I didn't know how to deal with it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't know. I was like, wow. Like, I didn't realize I was having, not me personally, but the team. I didn't realize we were having that effect on the people who come and support us. I didn't realize that. And get invited to be at the youngsters presentation nights. They didn't ask anybody from the Dragons or anything like that. They asked for me from the Evervale seniors that had a phone call off Jason. He's like, what are you doing on the weekend? I went, nothing. Well, he said, can you go to RTB under 9s and present? They want you to come and present. I was like, right, okay. wow, like I said, it sounds so small to some people, but to me, that was a big thing, massively big thing, because I was always the bad one. Do you know what I mean? I was always the one that was not going to make it. I was the one that was going to be in a box. I was the one that was not good enough to play, and here I am doing it, and yeah, so yeah, euphoric is most probably the best word to put it. Most probably. That is the word to
Euphoric.
put on it,
Yeah,
euphoric.
said that. Yeah, said that. But I think that, that itself, though, criminal to role model. I think that's brilliant.
Looking back on it now, yeah, but at the time, just couldn't get my head around that.
No, obviously, yeah. I think it's just like you said, that disbelief part, going, because obviously you would have been in the victim world of, I'm not deserving of this life. I don't deserve to be here. There's a lot more people out there that have probably been more deserving but you're there, and it's like people are picking you right above everyone else. But and that is very odd when you know what your past is. But remember, your past doesn't define you, and
No.
that's in itself a testament to your character as a man, to be able to take responsibility of your life and lead from the front. Because I've had conversations, honestly, Wes, with so many people on this podcast, and there's a common thread, but you are living that thread that I think definitely needs to be spoken about more. I don't think there's enough leaders in our world as men today. That's my own personal opinion.
Oh, for sure.
But you're obviously leading by example to a lot of these younger kids as a youth mentor, and obviously now helping men on a deeper level through your charity foundation that you're creating.
Yeah, and like I said, going back to rugby, playing for Vale, like that journey, and then going to Newport, playing for my home city. There's not many kids or many adults that can say they've played for the Black and Amber, and as much as I love Vale, it was a privilege to play for Newport. It was, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm born out of there, and it is my hometown now, city. Yeah, and not many people can say they played at Rodney Parade and represented this city, which I had the pleasure of doing, and also playing for Cross Keys as well, which is another lovely little village club and lovely people that's involved in that place. And rugby as a whole, the people involved in that don't, especially that level, the grassroots, the people in there, they don't get spoken or celebrated about enough, and they should be, because people involved in those kind of clubs are nice people, they are good people, and they care about the game of rugby, but they also care about the people who's involved in the game, whether you're from the minis and juniors all the way up to senior, to the guy who gets the balls, to the person who washes the kit, to the lady who makes the lovely food after the game. They care about everybody that's involved in the game, which then rubbed off on me. If that makes sense. What rugby taught me is a lot more than just catching and passing and tackling. It's taught me a lot more. Like it showed me what a team was. It showed me what perseverance meant. It showed me what being a team player is. It also showed me to look out for others. It also showed me how to stand on my own 2 feet. It showed me how to communicate. It even taught me how to be a dad.
Wow.
Even taught me how to be a dad, because when I went to that club at Vale to start off with, I got all these new players around me, making new friends. And at that time, they're all fathers, and I'm seeing how they're behaving as fathers, and I'm seeing how, their families are behaving, and it rubbed off on me. It completely rubbed off on me. And I never really taught the boys all that much, really. I never really said that out loud to many people, but it did. It rubbed off on me completely, seeing all that. And then going into that world of mentoring, that again, that was by accident. I was working as a forklift driver on a night shift, and I was asked by my youth offending officer, he was like, there's a volunteer job going. And I knew he was going with it. I was like, nah, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. No chance. And he said, Wes, remember what you was like when you was 14? I said, yeah, I was a little prick. That's why I don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean? I know I was a handful, so I know these kids will be a handful. But it turned out I got involved in that, work in the local leisure centre, becoming a sports coach during the summer holidays, play scheme, things like that, and working with kids in the community, give them a place to go, get involved in sports. And that's when I was like, yeah, I really like doing this job. And that's what got me into youth mentoring, really. It grew and grew and grew. And getting into the domestic violence world, well, that was very thing. I had not only personal experience myself growing up in domestic violence, but I've also had personal experience myself as a bloke, in that world. I got a tooth missing there where I got whacked at the time during my old relationship a long time ago. I'm the one sat there. Police get called. I'm the one, bleeding, but I'm the one somehow ends up in custody.
Wow.
So that's why I said that's why I advocate to a degree. I understand what that looks like, and I generally didn't do nothing wrong in that relationship. I literally just come in through the door from rugby after a great day and just whack across my face, just like that. And that's what happened. And then the police got called from the neighbours, and then I sat down. I knew the police were coming. I sat down, waiting for them to come. I was in cuffs. I got ragged into the car. I got taken to custody, but I was the one that was bleeding. And it was even worse because she was one stood there with the broken bottle as well. I'm the one that was still in custody for that. And but custody sergeant was great. Let me go. Like, look, you're getting out of here. No problem. And that's when the light bulb come on for me. Then where I wanted to speak up a little bit. And it's not a fact of men against women. That's not what this is. It's more of the system part of it that I'm seeing now. Well, in the work that I'm in, how the system sometimes is like set up for particular things, in my opinion. And when I speak to a lot of these men, the good guys, the good dads, they love their kids, they love their families. And it's a shame that they got to go through that. And they do need a bit of help. And I'm happy to do that, But in terms of my charity, my foundation, it's for open space for everybody. We'll be doing sports events for, men's mental health, for men to come out, get together, touch rugby, things like that. Also open to women as well. The biggest one for me is it's a bit of a close one to my heart. It's when we do our charity, it will be open up the doors for children with learning difficulties and physical disabilities. The inspiration for that is my son. He's 13 now, but he was born 3.5 months premature. We nearly lost him. We nearly lost him 4 or 5 times along the way. Fighter.
Massive,
he has epilepsy, cerebral palsy. Do you know what though? He comes down every day, smiles. With his epilepsy that he lives with, he has an episode. He bounces back. He smiles. Can I go to rugby, Dad? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, give me what you've got, kid. Do you know what I mean? Give me what you've got, kid. But there's not many spaces for boys like my son and girls like my son. And I want to give that space to those kids. My son loves Ronaldo. He loves Messi. He loves all those kind of guys, and I think Fortnite and, got a lot to do with that, showing the skins of all these top football players. But, he plays a bit of football. I take him to the park and he does the zoo. And I'm like, he's dreaming like any other kid is, and it's like, why can't he have the same dream as other kids just because he's, got some, functional issues? That doesn't mean he can't dream like anyone else. And that's the same for all the other kids that I've spoken with. So yeah, some of my charity, we're going to be doing a space for that as well. We're going to open up a slot where we're going to do rugby and footy and racket sports for kids with learning difficulties and physical disabilities. I believe there's not much space there for that. And I think they deserve to have access to sports just as much as they love as any other kid.
Absolutely. I love that. I really do. And I think it's amazing that you are giving that to young children, the fact that they are limitless, and regardless of what people may judge them as or whatever the society will push them into, whatever sort of area you're going, look, you're welcome here. You belong in this space, and you can be whoever you want to be, regardless of what your challenges are. I mean, the fact that you just said there, epilepsy and cerebral palsy, and he's still coming home smiling. I think you can look at it and go, hold on a minute. If I'm ever down in the dumps and having a bit of a bad day, if he can pick himself up, so can I. I want to know though.
Give me some of what you got, kid.
Yeah, give it me. Yeah, charge. Yeah, charge me up. Charge me up. I like it.
If I had what he had, I'd be a better man than I am now. If I had what he had.
But I think you're definitely taking the necessary steps, though, to be able to create that space and be in that space more. I think that you'll get a lot more of a buzz, What do you feel is the reason, though, Wes, that there isn't those sort of spaces around?
Uh, I think lack of funding. I also think, obviously certain things have gone now, like you hear everywhere, police being cut, NHS is being cut,
Yeah.
all jobs being cut and things like that. I think that's one. Also, I think, sometimes other areas of society is kind of overlooking that and focus on others. And don't get me wrong, it's needed where it's being focused. It is needed. But, I do think some of these young people do get overlooked, with the work that I do, I raise awareness on exploitation to young people, and I branch that out to people with learning difficulties as well, or additional learning needs, because anyone can be exploited. No one's exempt from from that world. Same with domestic violence. No one's
Yeah. Yeah.
exempt, whatnot. And so I want to speak to everybody on that. And yeah, so I think that kind of community gets overlooked a little bit, and it's a shame. Like, my son goes to football and he loves football. He likes rugby as well, but he loves football. And the club he goes to is great, that they do football for kids like him. They only do it once every 6 weeks,
Ah,
and
right.
right. And with my son, he has cerebral palsy. Exercise, is the physio have told us, exercise will be the best thing for his cerebral palsy.
Mm, mm.
That'd be the best thing for him to be more loose. He can use his left hand, his left leg a lot more if he exercises on that regularly. And there's nothing against the other club, but like run every 6 weeks and you know, and that
It's not really enough, is it?
not for any kid, but kids
No,
with
because you want to
with
keep playing.
disabilities, they'll need that regular consistency and a place to go, and so yeah, that's why I'm doing it, and that's why I think there's a gap there, not because it's a gap we want to exploit. I just think that's a gap that's been in for a long time. I've got personal experience like with my son. There's not much around for him to do,
Yeah.
and I want to create that space
I love
for those
that.
kids to come.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I absolutely love it. The fact that, again, it's coming from your own experience, Wes, with regarding, obviously your son, obviously the experiences you've had in the violence of rugby, being a role model. I mean, with this sort of foundation, where would you love to see it go, though, in the near
Oh,
future, if it was to be accepted and brought into the world?
well, we're lucky enough. I've just set it up now, and we've now got a bank account, which is also brilliant.
Oh, right. Oh,
Yes,
congrats.
so
Yeah.
yes, thank you. So we can finally get going now. Um, you know, and it's I want to look to it locally in Newport, obviously, and Wales as a whole. But if we could push that UK wide, then yeah, that would be the icing on the cake. Just having 20 kids from Newport come into our sessions on a Sunday would be a massive win for me. I don't think we made the money in the world that can you know top that really. If I got a lot of kids getting involved, but it would be a big bonus, and that would be my target. I want to make the charity go UK wide. I want us to be in a lot of communities around the country. I think it's needed. I think our alignment with a lot of communities and the alignment I've got together with my team, with my trustees, we're all aligned in the same way. We all got the same belief. We all got the same vision. Even though I founded the charity, I took upon myself to have trustees. I want to be very transparent. My one weakness is I can be very red rag to a bull. I go in charging sometimes to the health of the consequences. And I know that can be a good thing, but also sometimes I know that can be a bad thing, especially when you run your own business, entrepreneurship. That needs to be, you need that balance. And I think my trustees give me that balance. I go in a bit, hard headed, but they're the ones who go, whoa, think about this. Have you thought about this? Have thought about that? And it's like, what have you got to spoil things for? But you've got a very valid point. So it's really good. But yeah, I really want to be, UK wide. I really want to hit a UK wide. We just started, so I know it could be small for a while, but I really want to work hard on it, and I really want to make it UK wide. Because not only are we doing it for kids with learning difficulties and physical disabilities, it's also open to kids in general. We're looking to feed, the homeless. We're looking to feed, single parent families who are struggling. Because we know the climate that we're all living in. We want to do that as well. We really want to be a community charity. When I say community, it says what it says on the tin. We want to be a community. We could be running peer-led programs where we want, youngsters in college or high school that's just leaving school want to get into this kind of world. They can start learning, volunteering with us by being a peer mentor to youngsters, 8, 9, 10. So give them that little insight to health and social care, youth work, to give them a little insight, while they're in university or college. We want to give that kind of world back. We want to get youngsters, teenagers who need an opportunity. We want to get them into apprenticeships, so that's bricklaying, catering, things like that. So we're really looking into work with the local community here. Really look to work with the local community to give these kids those opportunities. I know what it's like not to get given one. I know what it's like to be tarred with a certain mark. So I'll always fight for those kids regardless. I'll always fight for them. That's never going to go away. But that's what my charity is going to be. That's what we're going to do. And the plan is to start off small, but within the next year or so, we want to try and be a bit more UK wide. And then within 5 years, we want to be UK wide.
I think it's brilliant. I love it. And you have to start small anyway. And I think the fact that you've got trustees as well sort of backing you, and you've got your sort of different skills and abilities and people that, can bounce off each other. I mean, you know what it's like. You've been in a team environment quite some time, with rugby and stuff like that. So you know how it's sort of you all bounce off each other. And obviously you're now doing this in a different capacity and being able to give back to these young kids. I think, just hearing you talk about it, it's obviously very, very close to your heart, like you've already said. You've got a lot of passion for it. I mean, look, I'm going to put this out here. I mean, I've never actually done this on a show, but if someone's listening into this or watching back, how could they help you with this charity? What could they do? What, if anything?
Follow my social medias. Facebook, Wesley Cunliffe. Instagram, Wesley Thomas Cunliffe. Our website will come out soon. Our charity is called Rise and Reach. Our website is
nice, good name.
Yeah. Our website is currently being finalised now. Hit the donate button. 10 pence, £10. Doesn't matter. Even if it's 10 pence, trust me. I'm not a greedy guy like that. It all adds up. It all adds up for me. And 10 pence is 10 pence more than we didn't have. So anything at all that you can give to us, we are literally working with the most vulnerable, their community. We are the ones that be going out at night supporting single parents who need food. I'll be the one going out at night when parents tell me that they found a knife in the kid's bedroom. I'm the one going out at midnight or 4 o'clock in the morning to go and get that knife to make sure that that kid never ruins their life and anyone else's. So please donate to us. Like I said, 10 pence or £10. It doesn't really matter. Just donate to us, support us, because we all need it. I think we'll be one of the best charities in the UK once we get up and running. I've got no doubt about that. So yeah, please reach out to us. It'd be good. It'd be good to have your support. We'll really need it, and we will definitely really appreciate it as well.
Oh, I love that, Wes. I think it's good that people know that. I mean, obviously, by the way, all sort of like your social links and stuff like that will be in the show notes, so people click and go straight there. So no, don't worry. No, it's absolutely fine. I mean, honestly, if anyone's listening, they'll probably be driving on commute or something, and probably wouldn't think to look on their phone, but at least if they've listened to it and they go through, they can sort of click it. But I think the fact that you're coming from such a genuine place, and obviously where you're trying to build and grow, you're in such a founding phase, which is exciting, and that you have this aspiration to be UK worldwide, and I think just the scope of accessibility as well, I think is worth admiring, because like you said, there's not enough spaces out there, and you're able enough, and you've already got it going. You've been accepted to be able to create that. So kudos to you.
Yeah, looking forward to the journey. I know it's gonna be a challenge. I'm under no illusion of that, and I know even though it's a charity, I know entrepreneurship is going to be a big part of our charity in terms of behind the scenes. I know that's going to be the case. I'm under no illusion. It's going to be a difficult journey, but let's go. I'm up for it. Let's go. And it's my first time into the world of this kind of world where
Right.
I've got to now find the funds or build everything up from the ground up. It's the first time I've been in that position. So I that's why I said looking people like you up. I've been looking up other entrepreneurs. I've been reading bios on people from the Dragon's Den just to try and pick up tips. Do you know what I mean? Like on how people do things.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a completely new world to me. I'm under no illusion of that. So I know I've got lots to learn, and yeah, but I'm actually looking forward to the challenge. Can't wait.
So what excites you the most?
Creating the opportunities excites me the most. Really. Getting people to support us, getting youngsters into opportunities that they never thought they have. In a few years' time, we'll see youngsters that we've dealt with in our charity later down the line becoming a plumber, plasterer, electrician, teacher, police officer, nurse, midwife, who knows? But we see somebody going into a career that they wanted to have. That's what excites me the most, really. Maybe seeing youngsters, from our disability program seen him represent Wales, England, Scotland in the physical disability team, Paralympics. Who knows, right? That's what will excite me. That's what will excite me about everything. Kids doing well, kids doing better.
Yeah.
Um,
You're the vehicle, mate. You're the platform. That's brilliant.
So I want that to happen. But in terms of behind the scenes, what excites me the most is facing those challenges. People who feel that our cause is not just creating opportunities for the charity to venture into other realms, and the biggest one that excites me is expanding. When we do start expanding into other parts of the country, that's really exciting for us as a team. So yeah, we can't wait to get on that journey.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. It's a healthy challenge as well, which I'm sure you guys as a collective will embrace. I just want to know on the flip coin, on the other side, what scares you the most?
Oh, Lord. There's a lot that scares me on this. Yeah, there's a lot. Not being received by the community. I don't think that'll be the case, but that's always scary, not getting much traction from youngsters getting involved in this. That does scare me. And not raising enough funds for our cause to help other people. That does scare me. But the one that does really scare me the most if we fail completely.
The failure.
Yeah, that completely scares me. Failing completely scares me, especially for the charity. 'Cause I really wanted to work. And I really wanted to do good for people. So yeah, that failing really scares me. Not gonna lie, that it petrifies me. That's the thing that does keep me up at night. The what about
Sure.
that really keeps
Sure.
me up.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. And I appreciate you being so open about it as well. I think a lot of people will relate to this, but also it's good for the guys that, listening and watching in that are maybe at a point where they're getting close to starting their business or going into the entrepreneurship world, that the fear of failure is so normal. It's something that, again, people talk about, some don't talk about. They be the strong person, but I love the way you articulated it as well. But look, Wes, we are getting towards the end, my friend. There is one more question that I do want to ask you, and it's a question I do ask every guest, sort of on the show, because it's great to hear their sort of perspective. So I'd love to know, what does mastering your life mean to you?
Oh, wow. Very good question. That's put me on the spot there, in all fairness. They really been asked that. Mastering your life. Do you know what? To be quite honest, I think the closest thing is to mastering your life, accepting that it is life, if that makes sense. Life is life. It is going to get hard. It is. It's going to. That is part of life, but at the same time, the good does come, and if you can master those two things without always be a conflict with each other, that's what I think would be the closest thing to mastering your life. Things will always go wrong. It will. That's just how life is. But also things will also go very, very right. And when things go very, very right, you've got to celebrate those things when it goes very, very right. Like I said, just having 10 pence donated to us would be very, very right for me. Just having that one youngster come into our session will go very, very right for me. So we got to take the wins when you take them, and you are going to get some losses. That's how it works. But how you master dealing with them both, that's the closest thing to mastery of your life. You got to deal with both. That's how I did it. I got to accept that I was wrong, but I've also had to accept that I'm now a new person, and I've got to juggle the both. But luckily, I'm leaning towards the new me. But mastering it, it's always going to be there's no such thing as perfection. You show me somebody who's perfect, and I'll show you a liar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as perfect, but the closest thing to it is accepting that, accept that you lose some, and accept that you do win some, and accepting when it does lose, don't lose your head. You get up and you go again, because that's what I had to do. I had to do that. Not being given certain employment opportunities, not being given certain sporting opportunities, but I still kept going. And that's mastering that. You've got to master the collision between yourself and the other self, and that's the closest thing to it from me. So that'll be my message. Just keep going forward, and it will come right.
Brilliant, Wes. Honestly, thank you, and it's great to hear sort of your views on it. It's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to say thank you for investing this time with us on the show today. It's been great. I've genuinely loved this conversation.
No, thank you for having me. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.